Hi everybody, I'm Lori Williams, a member of Stagecoach Players. I've been asked by a member of Stagecoach's COVID task force to make a video tutorial on how to sew a homemade face mask to help the members of our community better protect their health as well as the health of their families and fellow community members. So let's get started. I've made a pattern available and it's in the description below. It's printable, so if you're able to print, this would really help you out, especially if you've never done pleats before. I can explain in this video to how to do one without the pattern if you are unable to print, but this is what the pattern will look like once you print it out, and you're going to cut here and here, so that you will be left with essentially a little rectangle. And this is the only pattern that you will need. Okay, the first thing we are going to do is cut out our squares of fabric. Now, if you have the pattern, you can go ahead and just lay it down on the fabric like I'm about to do, or you can actually measure out about 7 by 7 inches. That's approximately how big this is, just with a ruler, and start your mask off that way. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is align my 2 pieces of fabric, because this is going to be double-sided. We're going to match them up so that we only have to do one cut here. Okay. You can see that. All right, and now I'm going to put this onto the fabric. Okay, and on each side of this square, I'm going to be leaving about a 1/2 inch to maybe 3/4 of an inch of allowance on every side, because that'll be for our hems. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and cut this out. Okay, and it's going to look like this when you have it cut out. So the next thing we're going to do is take our 2 fabric squares that we've made, and we're going to have them both face up, and then we're going to flip this one over. So we've got front to front, the 2 fabric squares together. And then on the top, we're going to sew these together, just a simple straight stitch. And now I'm going to start, I don't know if you can see, I've got about 1 inch or 2 out the back here that I'm going to leave unstitched on both sides, because later we'll be folding that under and we want to have enough room to do that. So there we go. Okay, so as you can see, I sewed it like that, and there's a couple of inches on either side that I'm leaving open. I'm going to do that next to the bottom side as well. Okay, so we've got our 2 top and bottom sides sewn together, and now we're going to flip the piece around. And I'm going to be working with my purple as my front here. Okay, next, so we've got this, and we're going to lay it down right here. Next thing is we're going to be putting in the nose piece, and we're going to use a pipe cleaner for that. Now these are just regular size pipe cleaners, and for each one of these you can get about 3 masks out of. So go ahead and cut just maybe about 1/3. And then this will be your little nose piece for inside of the mask. And the way I like to get it in there is at the very top here on the seam that you just made. I'm going to place it right in the center, and then I'm going to take a pin just so we can see where the center is, and place it along this side of the pipe cleaner so that we know it shouldn't go any farther than right here. So then I'm going to turn the piece and take this, and it's going to go right up here into this top seam. And then you'll stop it just as it gets to that pipe cleaner. And then you're going to pin it on the other side again. So my pipe cleaner is resting right here, see? And that will later bend so that you can form that onto your nose. Now, almost forgot. We're gonna do a stitch to keep that in place, as well as a stitch down here to finish off that hem. And now what I like to do to make sure that it looks symmetrical once you get it done is I take a ruler, and on right next to those pins on the very bottom, I'm gonna line it up and write a little bit mark there, so that's how I know where my stitch is gonna be, so it'll be even with the one on the top. So just 2 little dots there. And now I will sew the nose piece into place. So what I like to do is do just on the left side of this first pin, I'm going to go down about a centimeter, and then I'm going to back stitch back up it, and then down again, and then now I'm going to turn the piece so that we are going to stitch right under where the nose piece is at. Right, and when we get to the other side of this pin, we're going to do the opposite of what we did over here, so that we can secure it from moving back and forth around in the mask. So I got to go backwards first this time. Okay, as you can see, we've got like a little rectangle that is now housing our nose piece. Okay, and then on the bottom, this is just a simple stitch to keep this in place and make it look a little bit more flat. Where we put that little dot is right where I'm putting the first stitch. And I like to back stitch across a little just to keep it in place. Okay, so we've got a piece now that has got the top and the bottom stitched together. Okay, now here comes the pinning for the pleats and for finishing off the sides, and this is probably the part that's going to take the longest and be the most finicky. So you're going to need your 2 pieces of elastic, which these actually used to be hair bands, especially because elastic's really hard to find right now. They're in the headband hair tie section of the store, so I just took them and cut them, and they're about 9 inches long a piece. You're going to need 2 of them, and then you're going to need your pins now. Okay, so what I like to do is flip it upside down, and now for each edge here, we're going to take and fold under the top side and the bottom side, and then sandwich them together so it looks like that. And so essentially what you're doing is folding. See, there's our open pieces. This is why we didn't sew them all the way through before. You're going to take the ends and put it down into that seam, and then line them up together. Okay. All right, so I'm going to do that. And then on the front, I will pin those together on the top and bottom corners. All right, then I'm going to do the same for the other side. Now we are going to put the elastics in and create our pleats using our pattern. And I will also show you how to do them without the pattern. Okay, so first is what I'm going to do is I'm going to take one of my elastics, and now make sure that you have the top of the piece at the top. So feel for your nose piece because you want to start there so that your pleats are folding in the correct direction. Okay. All right, you put it in to the very top here, right where you have your top pin next to your nose piece, and kind of scooch it up as far as you can get it. And it's sticking into the fabric maybe about an inch there. And now I'm going to pin that in place. Okay, now I'm going to set down our piece and get out our template here. Okay, now I've written on this like 1A, 1B all the way down on the left. And so what you're going to do, these dotted lines are going to be where you fold it backwards, and 1A is going to connect to 1B. And this is the part that gets a little confusing to try to follow the pattern, so I'll try to show it to you nice and slow here. Okay, so 1A, the dotted line is what's going to go in the back, and 1B. So it's going to go just like this. Okay, folds over 1A to 1B. Ooh, and it's going to align right there. And now you press that flat, and right here is where you're going to pin it. Okay. Okay, now we're going to go 2A to 2B, and it's going to be the same thing. There's just going to be a little bit of a gap in between the two, so you ignore the space. I'm going to grab it by 2A here and fold it down to 2B. Now, before I do the last pleat, the 3A to 3B, I'm going to go ahead and connect this because it's a little bit, it gives you a little bit more space to work with on the inside so that it's not all scrunched up in there. So you can open up this, and the same as you did on the top to put the elastic in, you're going to put it in on the bottom and scooch it down and pin it into place. All right, now we've got our last pleat to do, so we've got 3A to 3B. It's a bit of a handful here. Okay, all right, so then we've got it folded down, and then take our pin and stick it through. Okay, so now you've got your pleats. So in the picture of the my first tutorial video, I'm sorry everybody, my brain just blanked. In the side of where you cut out your pattern, it's gonna show kind of a picture of what it'll look like together. I wrote like a little doodle on the side, so you'll see essentially one big strip, two skinny ones, and a big one on the bottom, and that's how you know that you did your pleats correctly. I'm gonna go ahead and do the same on the other side. And now this is where if you don't have the pattern, you can do the same thing. You just take about an inch, and then you kind of press it up and over, leaving it folds like that. So it's going to go straight, it's going to go back, and then it's going to go down again. And then you're going to do that. I'll pin it. You should put the elastic in it first, but just for the demonstration, so I don't make this too long, I'll just do this separate. So we've got one pleat going across, and now we've got the skinny one. up and over. Here we go. Trying to make sure that you can see while I'm doing this. I don't have enough arms or eyes. Okay, and then last pleat is also a little skinny one. So it'll be like that. Okay, so now it's straight like that. And this is why I like to put the elastics in first, because now I have to kind of like push it into that little hole and get it aligned properly. So it's a little trickier to do it that way. So I'm gonna do that, and then I'm gonna move on to sewing everything together for you. Okay, so we've got our mask all the way pinned together, and this will be our last step of just sewing it together. So I like to start on this side, again with the nose piece on top, but it doesn't really matter. We're gonna go up to this very corner, and I like to sew maybe about 1/2 centimeter or so seam allowance into here so that it has enough room to grab everything. Okay, so there's going to be a lot of back stitching in this, but that'll make it stronger once you get it finished. Okay, so for just the teensy little bit in the beginning, I'm going to sew forward and then back again. So that'll make a nice strong top corner. And now sometimes my sewing machine, and possibly yours as well, isn't super happy about this elastic, so you need to kind of go through it slow and up and down your presser foot to help it out a little bit. But I'm going to do a back stitch over that elastic too, and forward again. Now, whenever I come to one of the little edges of the pleats, like right here, I like to do a little back stitch back and forth over it as well, because there's going to be a lot of tension on that area. So I'm hitting my first one, forward and back, forward again, and here comes the next one. All right, one more pleat. Alright, I'm sewing over the elastic again on the bottom now. And back. Now all the way to the end. And then I'm just going to back stitch just a little bit. I'm going to do that again. My sewing machine didn't like that. Whoop. See, there it is, getting mad at me, but that's okay. We're at the end of the piece. Ooh, yay, birds nesting. That'll happen with these sometimes, and it's okay. You can just cut off if it tends to make a mess onto the on the elastic areas where you back stitch as well. But anyway, there you go, and that's what your mask will look like from the front. I'm going to go ahead and do it on the other side as well and cut off all the strings and everything so you can see what the final piece looks like. All right, everybody, now we have our finished mask. The way you want to wear this is to make sure your nose piece is on top, the pipe cleaner piece. Push it down onto your nose, flip it over your ears, and then pull down on the chin part. Okay, so there we go. At the very end of the video, if you stay watching, I'll give you a little hint, a tip on how to properly wear these with glasses, because sometimes they like to slide off on you. These masks are both hand and machine washable, and you're going to want to do that every time you take them out. You can throw them in with your regular wash, or you can hand wash them in the sink as long as you use warm water. You can also just throw them in the dryer on low for about 20 minutes to disinfect them between uses. Included in the description in the video here, I'm going to add both the pattern printout, a step-by-step instructions just written so you can read instead of just having to pause the video a bunch of times. I'll put the wash instructions as well. And then we're going to have info for a fabric giveaway. Stagecoach Theater is having a fabric giveaway on Tuesdays from 4 to 6 p.m. behind the theater. And the address is 126 South 5th Street in DeKalb. They're also hosting a food drive for our fellow community members. So bring some dry goods or paper products to donate and pick up some fabric if you need some material for making masks. Also, if you are able to make some extra masks after you have all of your family members covered, they will be accepting those as well. Let's see, lastly, I wanted to thank Stagecoach players for giving me this opportunity to help out my fellow community members. I was very glad to do this video for you all, and I hope it's been a helpful tutorial for everybody. If there's any questions, please feel free to comment, and we'll see if we can help you out. Thanks very much. Okay, I'm going to give you guys a little tip for those of us like me that have glasses, because sometimes when you're wearing these masks, your glasses can kind of fall off your face. So this is what I like to do to get it on. See, they're already trying to go. You take the loop that's right over top of your ear and flip it up and over the eyepiece of, or the earpiece, sorry, of your glasses, and then they'll stay in place easier.